Good morning and welcome to the Digital Transformation Panel. Technology is emerging at an exponential rate, and traditional organizations are figuring out how to keep up. I think the events of 2020 have really magnified this situation, with digital companies being able to pivot their business models, products, services, and processes quickly to continue to meet customers' needs, solve customers' issues, and provide a superior customer experience. To unleash the gains for your business, true digital transformation requires rethinking how business is conducted. I am Carrie Hoffman, your moderator for this morning. A bit about myself. I am principal and co-founder at Get Digital Velocity. Our mission is to get as many companies as possible on their path to digital. So I'm very passionate about this topic. Prior to Get Digital Velocity, I have 32 years of corporate experience, including CIO roles at business units of Johnson Controls and Johnson & Johnson. And I started my career as a medical technologist at Aurora Healthcare. The common thread is I have always been driving business transformation enabled by technology. So let's jump right in. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom ribbon of your Zoom window to enter your questions at any time throughout the panel. Nicole Conrad from Bostic is going to be monitoring that Q&A for our panel. So on the panel with me this morning are CIOs from 3 different businesses who are well along their digital journeys. We have Lori Pinella from the CIO at Marquette University, Steve Hannon, CIO at Landmark Credit Union, and Tim Dixon, CIO at Generac Power Systems. So I'm going to ask all of you to unmute your mics. And I'm also going to ask that, how about we have each panelist introduce themselves as they answer their first question. So let's get started with our first question. What does digital transformation look like in your industry? So Lori, let's have you get us started by introducing yourself and let us know what's digital transformation look like in higher education.
Good morning, Carrie, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your commitment to United Way. I'm Lari Pinella. I'm the CIO with Marquette University. I've been there for 1.5 years now. So within my first 6 months of joining Marquette, this little thing called COVID happened. And it has really brought us on to thrust us into a new digital journey. Marquette University is a Catholic Jesuit institution. We've been around for about 140 years, and we're located in downtown Milwaukee. And we serve about 12,000 students, and there's about 2,000 faculty that we support, faculty and staff that we support as well. Our mission is to really build the leaders of tomorrow, and to do so under the parameters of excellence, leadership, service, and faith. And prior to working for Marquette, I was with Milwaukee County. I was at Milwaukee County for 27 years, retired as the CIO in 2019. So I come from 2 industries that traditionally are often behind as it comes to digital transformation. I mean, we look at our students in K through 12, and even into higher education, we're not moving as fast as we would like in the digital transformation, at least that I would like in the digital transformation. From an administrative view in running the business of higher ed, we are continuously improving, but actually moving into new business models, well, actually, COVID is kind of thrusting us into that. March of 2020, we moved 14,000 individuals to an online modality. But our line of business is that personal connection and small group, hands-on labs, experiential learning with our students. So in 1 week, we had to move all 14,000 individuals, but still provide that quality that one expects from a Marquette education. It was a challenge. And one of the things that I really appreciate that Tina brought up in the video, which is a passion of mine, is digital equity. 18% of our students at Marquette University are Pell Grant recipients. Their families make less than $50,000 in a given year. So many of our students did not have network, nor did they have laptops and computing devices. So through generous donation of PNC Bank and many of our alum, we were able to help 200 students with hotspots, laptops, and hopefully to make a difference. So I just had to throw that in because please donate and help with the Tequity initiative. It is something that is much needed in our community. So to talk about digital transformation, as I stated a year ago, we moved to an online modality, and it was transformed how we did business. But what's really going to be interesting in the education arena is how is it going to live into the future? How is not just for higher education, but for our K through 12 as well. We're still kind of learning and figuring that out, but there's a lot of things that we've put into play that are truly transformative and I think will change the business of higher education. But during COVID, students, and we have a dental program, the students are required to have hands-on experience with patients before they can graduate and become full-fledged dentists. Well, with COVID, that wasn't available. So we had to turn to technology. And some of the cool things that we did, we had a 3D X-ray where students were able, through the software, to actually go in and plan and perform a dental implant through the technology. What's really exciting about that is that's going to become, or that is now part of our future of how students will learn as well. So they'll go into this software, they will plan out a dental implant, which this system will now print out the plan and the guide for the actual surgery when the student is working with the patient. So pretty exciting stuff there. We have, as we were working through our what our new online modality will be, we have deployed distance learning technology in about 40 of our classrooms. And that is going to transition into the future where we will have students that may be in the classroom via monitor. And they are actually in China, Arizona, California, anywhere in the world and anywhere in the country. That is a new business model for us that is brought on by technology, which is digital transformation.
Yeah, Lori, I love all your examples of how really it's kind of like the silver lining of COVID, right? How COVID has accelerated this transformation and digital transformation. And in the terms of higher education, it's made a lot of changes to the business model. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So Steve, over to you with a brief introduction and tell us about digital transformation in the banking industry.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Hannon. I'm the CIO at Landmark Credit Union. I've been there about 3.5 years. My experience before that, long time. I've always been in the Milwaukee area, Wisconsin. Some previous experience doing insurance, both P&C and healthcare, and started my career at Accenture. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for having me on the panel today. In the financial services banking industry, digital was already a big deal prior to COVID and the pandemic. We're seeing as technology is embraced by what we call our members or as customers, the use of online banking, the use of mobile banking, the use of technology to be able to streamline activities, and it was already out there. And if you did some demographics and looked at people, you'd be able to really look at least for us, and see how young the people, our members, would skew in terms of use of digital technologies for their everyday financial needs. And as you got older, it would drop off considerably. And then COVID hit. And now it doesn't look that way anymore. And we see technology being used across our entire membership. And we're going to see more and more of that in terms of the transformation that the banking industry, as well as organizations like Landmark, need to do. New expectations have been set for both internally with our employees as well as externally with our customers. We have an entirely remote or almost entirely remote administrative group now. So all of our back office functions will always be out there in retail. We're a retail company, with our branches, but all of our workers right now are at home that don't need to be in the office. So there's an expectation there in providing the tools that our associates need to be productive, whether that's Office 365, whether that's Teams, even some things as simple as file storage and having access into Office 365 without having to jump on a VPN, because we can have multi-factor getting in and certificates that we know who you are. So you don't have to jump through as many hoops to do things. You can collaborate and share easier. You can do a whiteboard session where I'm sitting here and Tim's over at Generac, and we could share a whiteboard session together. Things like that for our associates has been huge for us. And we're going to see more and more of that as the years progress. Then as we look at members and we look at what's happening there, there's a drive for contactless, efficient, do it all electronically, put it not just on my computer, but make sure I can do it on my phone. And the bar is getting raised, and it's accelerating that type of change that we have to enable. And it's also changing how we have to approach those things. It's not just the delivery of the capabilities, it's how we deliver so that we can go faster and faster with that. But then we're seeing huge shifts from an industry standpoint. Challenger banks, things like Chime, things like Ally, Capital One, as we see those things. Rocket Mortgage, you see them advertise what they look at. There are those challengers that we see out there. Then there are whole new business models that are happening that may or may not be financial services, but impact us greatly. Things like Carvana, you're buying a car online, or Tesla, you're buying that car online. Where are you getting your financing? How does that work? And what does that mean for traditional financials like Landmark? So we're seeing huge changes across the industry, and it's a really exciting time for us. And digital transformation and accelerating our digital journey is the only way that we're going to be able to keep up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. I love your comment about the whiteboarding. It's taken a while, but we've actually gotten better now, right? At even doing flip charts and Post-it notes virtually, which is something that we would have, said before was really difficult to do. And I know when we talked about this earlier, the whole idea of Carvana and an alternate way of getting loans was something that really opened my eyes to how that affects the banking industry. So thanks so much for that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Digital transformation is sometimes seen as a buzzword, maybe an overused buzzword. And so if you start talking about digital transformation in your company, it's often important to define it, right? So Tim, let's have you introduce yourself and answer this question. Digital transformation is a buzzword. And so how do you kind of define that within your organization?
Yeah, you bet. So good morning, Carrie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be here with two awesome digital CIOs, Lori and Steve. So thank you for having me on the panel. I'm still fairly new here, like a lot of other folks. I've been in my role 6 months. And here at Generac is transforming. We've been in the news quite a bit. We're trying to transform to a global energy technology company. And I was hired to come on board as the first-time CIO to drive the digital transformation for Generac. And like you heard from some others earlier in the show, I would love to be able to do that. And my desire is to do that with as much local talent from the greater Milwaukee area as possible. I'm from the state of Wisconsin, and I just want to make it a great story, both for Generac and for the local region. So I love sessions like this, sharing best practices and building up the network. And obviously would love to pay it back in any way, shape, or form, and love to be involved with a lot of the initiatives that United Way has to offer. So digital transformation. So I might think about this a little bit differently than a lot of other CIOs. Digital transformation for me is about driving brand new business and revenue growth through brand new digital business models. And how do you do that from IT? How do you do that from the role of the CIO? I found three different ways in which it's worked for me, and I'll share those with the audience here. The first one is having customer-facing insights. The second one is through customer data, and the third is through driving change. So customer-facing insights. So yes, CIOs, get up out of your chair, get out, meet customers, whether they're B2B or B2C customers. You can do it in time of COVID. Month 3 on the job here, I was doing customer and dealer councils virtually, via Teams. So it can happen. And the point here is really just to put yourself in the place of the customer, see things from their perspective, spend the day in the life of the customer, how they experience you as a company, in this particular case, Generac. Once you're able to do that and gain, let's just say, verbal or listening insights, then you have to double down on your customer data. And yes, do the hard work of consolidating, connecting all of the customer data, all the data that you have about your customers across the enterprise into one place, whether that's a data lake, a data pond, a data pool, something where you have that complete life cycle view of the customer. I call it Customer 360, because then you have a data set that you can run artificial intelligence and create data-driven insights on that, combined with the verbal and listening aspects, give you some really good ideas about what customers might ultimately be up for. And then ultimately, once a technology approach or solution is developed, it's all about driving change. And I'm very thankful here in the role at Generac to be reporting to the CEO, and that helps from a change management perspective, alignment, articulation around why are we doing this, why are we changing, what's in it for individual business units, what's in it for the entire enterprise, sort of articulating that story and enrolling employees at all levels of the organization in your plan, because ultimately you're going to be asking them to do something different. You're going to have to personalize the change to their level. You're going to have to enroll them in the process along the way. I'm a huge believer in Agile and DevOps as a form of digital delivery. It gets customers and business units involved early on in the program so that they can touch and feel and provide feedback, so that ultimately when you're delivering and asking them to use this system or this tool, they've already been bought in, and hopefully they're a champion for the for the effort. And so those are just a couple of tidbits of lessons learned I'll provide. And if you're able to do those with your digital transformation efforts, you are going to be driving some sort of new growth for the company, which is very exciting.
Yeah, Tim, thanks. That is very exciting. And one of the things I see as companies get more and more digital is they're really practicing this extreme customer centricity, where every employee in the company, no matter how big they are, can end up having a touch point with the customer. So I love that. So Steve, your thoughts on defining the sometimes overused buzzword of digital transformation?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. And I think Tim did an outstanding job. I almost want to copy some of Tim's answers there. So thanks, Tim. And I will freely admit the term digital transformation, I do think it's an overused buzzword, and I'm kind of over it. Like those things happen. I've traditionally thought of, you talk business transformation with technology. Really, that's, a lot of what digital transformation really means to me. And what digital, but doing it with digital is a little bit different. And I think Tim was really good with talking about Agile and DevOps and DevSecOps. And it's changing the way we do the work, I think, is a little bit different than if you were to go back 10 or 15 years ago when we were full on business transformation was a bigger buzzword and things looked a little bit more linear and waterfally. Now digital transformation is kind of that same thing. We're keeping where the customer is at the center, where we're moving quickly and we are transforming the business, whether that's making our internal operations more efficient and effective. And as Tim really drove home, that I thought was great, is the new products and services and the way we go to market. And, that external facing view that I think about, it is a really good model for us to think around some of that digital transformation and the speed of delivery, in different products and services that resonate differently in a digital marketplace than they do in a more traditional, for us, retail brick and mortar marketplace. So as I think about that, it's some of the things that I mentioned even earlier: Office 365 technologies, collaboration technologies, RPA, things like that, that help us do things better and more efficiently internally, and all of those things that that we think about in the transformational way that we can serve our customers to take out friction, make things go faster, make it be easier, and always have the customer at the center of what we're doing when we go to market.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. So, Lori, let's kind of tie this back a little bit to the first panel. There's other factors in higher education that are driving business transformation on top of what's happening with digital. Can you talk a little bit about the high school graduation rates and the effect on Marquette's business model?
Yeah.
Lori, you might be on mute.
I always make fun of people who do that, and I just did it.
We all do it at some point.
I know. But we all remember, going back to the question, we all remember the recession in 2008. There was a lot of uncertainty, and people were having less kids. And so in 2025, 2026, we are going to see 25 to 30% less students graduating from high school. And that is our customer base. And even today, we are starting to see some of our universities merge and some of our universities close throughout the United States. So Marquette really needs to look at what are our new business models and how are we going to expand our customer base. So one of the tactics is we're looking to attract your non-traditional student. And really, that's you and I. I mean, that's you and I. We're looking at more micro-credentialing, executive training, online master's programs, and beefing up those programs, and really meeting people where they are. So if you travel a lot with your job and you're a lifelong learner and you want to learn a new skill, Marquette will be offering online programs asynchronously or synchronously. I mean, you would end up having a choice, but you can take those courses anytime, anywhere. So that's a new business model that will be underpinned by the brand and the quality of Marquette University. And it will include that personal, because you need that personal interaction with your professor, your peers in the class, your various classmates. We're also looking at, why do you go to Marquette? What makes Marquette a differentiator? And that is all underpinned by technology. And so some of the things that we are going down the path with in our new buildings. So we have a new facility, a new College of Business going up on the corner of 16th and Wisconsin. It will be ready by fall of 2023. But we're building in virtual reality rooms. We're building in pitch rooms. We're building in what I spoke to earlier about student might be in China and right there on a monitor on the wall with 20 students in the class. So that high flex type of modality. We recently received a $31 million grant from the Jackson family, and part of that grant is innovation for nursing. So these are the things that are going to make our business a differentiator and help us bring more of that limited student base to Marquette University.
I love hearing what Marquette's doing with virtual reality, because I've been looking at it and participating in it probably for decades now. 2 decades, I think was when I first started getting involved in it. So it's really exciting to see the applications come about with the virtual reality. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about competitors. How are competitors and even non-traditional competitors setting the bar in your industry? And Tim, I'm gonna start with you, because you have a great example from a different part of your career and a tool called Proctor. So can you tell us a little bit about that example?
Yeah, believe it or not, before Generac, I was in the higher education space. I worked for a company called Laureate Education, who in essence was a private equity firm that owned a number of large universities across the globe. And a la the theme of customer-facing insights, very early in my tenure when my team and I were traveling around the world meeting with academics and heads of universities, we found, and this was a few years ago, we found that online cheating was a growing problem and is a bigger problem today in the virtual world. Was a bigger problem in universities gaining their accreditation, and Lori would certainly know all about this, the accreditation value to a university. And unbeknownst to the reason why we were there, for an IT project or implementation, this is something completely outside the bounds of a normal IT team even think about doing. We started creating a prototype around a solution that could potentially solve this problem for our business partners, these academic heads from universities. And so we partnered with Microsoft. We leveraged some latest technology in microservices, facial recognition, voice recognition, typing pattern recognition, AI, things of that nature. And we put together a proctoring tool that basically monitors students' behavior when they're taking exams online and determines whether they're cheating or not. And no one wants to deal with this problem because there's prosecution involved, and professors don't necessarily want to admit that students are cheating in their class, but it was a real problem at the time. And IT sort of stood up, got out there and developed a solution that we ended up deploying across Laureate and then started selling on the open market to universities like Cambridge in the UK, et cetera. And the point to all this story is that by doing this and having a passion for solving the customer problem in any industry, this happens to be higher ed, and taking a creative and innovative approach, you change the eyes, change the brand perception of the organization. You put the CIO and the IT organization in a little bit of a different light. I got a chance to manage a P&L, which I had never done before in my history. So I got to brand myself a little bit more as a digital CIO as opposed to just a traditional CIO. And so if you take some chances in that regard and you leverage new technology and you partner and you motivate your team, you can do some pretty special stuff in any industry.
Awesome. Steve, I'm going to ask you the same question. How are competitors and even non-traditional competitors setting the bar in the banking industry?
Yeah, thanks. I think about that, and I think about some of the more traditional, but even non-traditional. You think about what ads we see on TV, and you see Rocket Mortgage, you see Capital One, and those are some of the big ones, and they set expectations for customers. I can get a mortgage in 8 minutes. I can open a new account in 5 minutes, and it's probably debatable whether or not that's realistic. But and especially for most people, but the expectation is now set that I can open an account on my phone in 5 minutes, and and it's not just set for a Capital One customer; it's set across the board because we've now all heard that. If you watch sports on TV, you've heard it over and over and over, and so those expectations are now extremely elevated, and then they go to the other parts of the of member expectations, customer expectations of financial services. And then you look at some of the non-traditional things that are out there, a Chime. And one of the things that Chime does is they can see a pending ACH, your direct deposit, and your paycheck, your bank account actually sees it a day or two ahead of when you actually get it deposited. Chime will give you access to those funds 2 days before Chime actually has them. Traditionally, banks and financial services don't do that. So that's essentially a micro loan of 2 days. And so that's incredibly disruptive because it's so valuable to a certain customer segment that they're flocking to Chime for those 2 days of access to their cash. And again, it's setting expectations and changing the way the industry views it. So we look at all of those things. And then we look at the other things that are truly that I think of as competitors to us. Traditionally, banks, credit unions, financial services, the way we grow, a big part of the way we grow is by attracting deposits. So if you think about how much cash exists on Starbucks gift cards, in Apple Pay, on Amazon cards, all of those things, it's billions of dollars that has been taken out of traditional financials that sit on these cards now. And you know what? Starbucks and Apple loves it because, well, maybe not now with rates being so low, but traditionally they're still getting, those 15 little basis points of interest on that traditionally would be coming to a credit union or a traditional bank, be it a big one or even a local or community bank. So all of those different things are competing and coming at us. In my opinion, that's where I see the real threats from, more so than another traditional competitor. And I think I'd view that whether I'm a mid-size, financial like Landmark or one of the big guys, the real threats are the places on the outside that are coming to get us and pecking away at what we're doing and in either transforming how they're delivering those services to customers, or they're taking part of our business away from us. So it's a really interesting time to be able to view how things are unfolding in the financial services industry.
Yeah, I never really thought about the money tied up in those cards. So it'd be an interesting exercise to just kind of add that up, right? Add your own experience up. Okay, we have got some really great questions coming in. So I'm going to ask Nicole Conrad from Bostic to help moderate some of those questions coming through, and any of the panelists can feel free to answer.
Great, thank you, Carrie. So I'm going to merge a couple of the questions together because there's two that are really related that came through right away. The first part is, what opportunities do you see for security and network transformation to enable and accelerate digital transformation? And then the second part being, how has your approach changed with accelerated work from home adoption?
I'll take the first one if somebody else wants to take the second one. So in the last few roles that I've had, I've committed to my boss, whoever that may be, that there's nothing that my team or I would do from a digital transformation perspective that would put their name on the front page of the Wall Street Journal from a security perspective. So what does that mean? What that typically means is that with digital transformation, you're going to be using some sort of new technology that may not have been used before in the organization, in the company. The team might not have been skilled in that area. There's probably some training involved and some upskilling required to roll out that new thing. And if you don't have security aligned with you from the get-go along the entire way, you're putting yourself and your team and your company at risk. And so I've learned through the course of my career to be as tight and have your cyber person right there in the mix along the way from a digital transformation perspective. They're just looking at things from a different point of view than you might, in terms of maybe even an acceleration of that technology, a rapid prototype, if you will. But you have to have cyber and networking right there along with you the entire way. It's something that I think is a growing skill set. It's kind of a blend of two different areas, and if you find those people, keep them and invest in them because they're hard to come by.
Thanks, Tim.
I can talk a little bit about the work from home, and I'm going to take a slightly different spin. We've talked a little bit about how the remote work environment. Fortunately, we were in a position where it was relatively easy for us to shift. We had the collaboration tools, and we've pushed on it. I think that the remote work is actually going to be very beneficial to our business over the next 2 to 4 years, because as people are working remotely and seeing collaboration tools, getting used to video conferences like this, it will push our ability to see the way we conduct our business differently. And we'll be able to see things from a much different point of view for that member or customer who wants to have a video meeting with a loan officer, with someone that wants to do a transaction. I think we'll become more comfortable with how we think about, across the board, about pushing things out and allowing customers to self-serve in ways that they haven't done that before, the ability to be contactless. So I think I work in a very commoditized, very traditional business in financial services. And there are a lot of people who didn't even want to do those self-serve kind of things and would get out in the forefront of us making some change. That's now been flipped, because even those people that still wanted to walk into a branch and do something, they need to be able to do it online and do it digitally. And I think that shift is shifting our entire mindset as an organization, and that'll stick going forward, even when we're back in the office.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Nicole, why don't we take one more question and then we're just going to close out the panel.
Great, thank you. So looking at the questions, I think one that's resonated a couple different times here is really around metrics. So what specific metrics are you attempting to utilize to measure your progress and success along their digital transformation journey?
I'll offer one that's, I think, fairly new from an IT perspective. I think people in IT have been traditionally very well at presenting business cases for investment approval based on cost reduction, cost control, opportunity cost, productivity, efficiency, and that is all fine and dandy and a part of many IT organizations' remit. But in the last couple of roles, I've been able to take business cases up to an executive team, whether that be CEO, CFO, et cetera, and actually present and get approved projects that drive revenue growth for the company, new revenue growth for the company. And so I think you're seeing more and more, certainly in the digital arena, a very close tie between technology and the enablement of new revenue streams, whether in existing business units or in brand new business units. And for a CIO to be the one presenting a business case on behalf of a president of a BU or a general manager of a BU, talking about how a new app, a new site, a new portal, a new bot of some nature is actually going to drive new revenue for the company, that's a game changer for IT. So if you haven't done something like that yet, I would challenge you to kind of step outside the box and just go for it, because it is a huge game changer from a brand perception point of view for the IT organization and the leader of that organization.
Awesome. That's a great challenge to give everyone. Okay, so we are going to shift to our very last question, which is a lightning round question. I'm going to ask the question and ask the panelists to give me an answer in 30 seconds or less, because we're coming right up to the end of the panel. So, how do you personally apply continuous learning to update your digital transformation strategy or approach? And Lori, let's start with you.
Absolutely. So for me, it's relationships with other CIOs in the Catholic Jesuit arena. We have 27 that we partner with, also with the Big East CIOs. We're always in collaboration on who is doing what. I work through Gartner, which great research firm, and also there's a higher education Gartner-like that is called EDUCAUSE. And working through that group, it's great for continuous learning, knowing what's trending, what's emerging, what's doable. I mean, and you compare lessons learned. So great interaction
Awesome.
with those groups.
Thank you, Lori. Tim.
So I belong to a lot of different, CIO, CTO, CDO type of networks, and subscribe to all of the newsletters and all the case studies and all the white papers and so on and so forth. And believe it or not, I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day without the alarm and just spend the first hour of my day not bugging my team and just reading. And it's very calm. The kids aren't up, my wife's not up. And I learn about new things. I learn about new approaches. I learn about what other people have done. I learn about whether this is something that could apply, to my situation and to, in this case, Generac. And I feel that I need to do that because I can't go to my team asking any one of my team members to go try this new thing out, go learn about this thing if I don't know about it myself. And so that's just a part of my kind of personal aspect, is not necessarily being the expert, but having enough context around that new technology or that new thing before really having one of my team members dive into it.
I love it. A true morning person.
Yeah.
Steve.
All right. I think I do a lot of the traditional, the groups that newsletters and CIO panels or events like this can be great, as well as networking with the CIO community. Here, I also do a bunch of reading. In addition to that, I think one of the things that I really like to do and where I've gotten some good ideas is actually paying more attention to my kids and how they use technology and looking at how technology is used outside of financial services, because, you know, what if they're using it for something, what could we use it for at Landmark, or how could we take advantage of that? So I really like to see how other industries are doing things and then see how I could apply it, you know, at Landmark.
Learning from people younger than you. I call that reverse mentoring.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to thank the panelists, Steve, Lori, and Tim. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time. I want to thank the attendees. Thank you, everybody. And there's a short 4 to 5 minute break before we jump into some networking in the 20 CIO lounges that are available. So be sure to get on the website and enter whichever ones you'd like to join. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the
Bye.
opportunity.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.